Hi everyone. My name's Ruth Nicholson, and I'm going to present to you the findings from my dissertation project that I did as part of my master's in Genetic and Genomic Counselling with Cardiff University. This was a qualitative research study which focused on exploring the psychological and social issues faced by children with classical Ehlers-Danlos syndrome from the perspective of their caregiver. So it's just to say that there are no disclosures related to this presentation. And so in this talk, I'll briefly go over the research methodology used, and then I'll primarily focus on the findings of the study and the themes that were generated. And then I'll briefly look at the implications for the future at the end. So recruitment for this study was primarily through EDS Support UK, which is a support group. And data was collected via semi-structured interviews that lasted around 45 minutes to an hour. And these were conducted via telephone call or Zoom. And so in total, I interviewed 6 caregivers of children with classical EDS. And then once the interviews were completed, they were then transcribed and analysed using thematic analysis to generate 4 main themes, which provided insight into the psychosocial issues that children with classical EDS face. So I'm just going to talk you through those 4 main themes now. So the first one was titled A Restricted Life. For all children in the study, one of the most challenging aspects of living with classical EDS was the restrictions on daily life that their symptoms imposed. And then this overarching theme was split into a series of sub-themes, and I presented one quote from the interviews to illustrate each of these sub-themes. So frequent injuries, pain and fatigue were consistently reported as the main symptoms experienced by children. Minor injuries resulted in large gaping wounds that often required specialised stitches or sutures, and this was a symptom that was present from infancy. Fatigue also appeared to be a continuous challenge, and this was exacerbated by trying to keep up with the demands of daily living. For some children in the study, this was also coupled with chronic joint pain. And together, all of these symptoms impacted upon the child's ability to engage in many different aspects of daily living. Fear of injury was a consistent experience for all children in the study, and this acted as a significant barrier to participating in certain activities. Injury fears created anxiety, with many children apprehensive about when their next injury may occur, the manner of that injury and its consequences. And this anxiety was exacerbated by the stress caused by frequent visits to accident and emergency following an injury. And this fear of injury was not only experienced by the child, but by the whole family. And many parents reported that they struggled to find the appropriate balance between encouraging the child to live as normal life as possible with reducing the risk of sustaining an injury. The physical symptoms of the condition also limited the child's ability to engage in certain social and leisure activities. Due to the risk of harm, particularly when participating in high-impact activities, they were not always able to attend birthday parties or other social events, which contributed to feelings of isolation. Pain and fatigue also meant that the child would usually spend the weekends or the school holidays resting to recover from the exhaustion of the week. However, the use of protective gear was reported as being beneficial in increasing the breadth of activities that the child could participate in. Education and learning were other areas impacted by the physical effects of the condition. Many parents felt that the condition prevented their child from fulfilling their academic potential. Due to injury risks, some children were not able to participate fully in PE or had to wear their protective gear. And as a result of heightened fatigue, completing homework, reading and writing were difficult. So the second theme generated from the interviews was titled Self-Perception. As children in the study grew older, they became more aware of the condition and how it impacted them. So as a result, children felt different to their peers, which created a sense of isolation. Due to the rare nature of classical EDS, children were often not aware of any other peers who were facing a similar situation to themselves, and this heightened feelings of loneliness. 2 parents expressed that their child was self-conscious about the impact, about the visible impact of classical EDS on the skin, which affected their confidence. However, 2 other parents reported that their child used their bendy joints and elastic skin as party tricks to impress others. In general, all children in the study were able to form good relationships with their peers who accepted their condition. Many parents commented that compared to in the past, today's society is generally more open-minded and aware of disabilities. So the third theme was a lack of awareness of classical EDS, and this was reported to be a significant issue. So at times, this lack of awareness delayed diagnosis, as the child's symptoms were initially dismissed as being part of normal childhood development, or occasionally mistaken for domestic violence, which understandably resulted in significant parental emotional distress. All parents described the benefit of receiving a diagnosis, which included having an explanation for worrying symptoms, the ability to explain the condition to others, and access the appropriate support. Due to this lack of awareness of the condition, parents adopted the role as the educator, so informing others about the condition and advocating for the appropriate support and treatments. And for many, this responsibility took a toll on their psychological well-being. Most parents in the study felt that their opinions and thoughts regarding their child's care were often dismissed, leading to frustration towards healthcare professionals. Many parents discussed the resistance of healthcare professionals to integrate the family's knowledge into the child's care, despite them having first-hand experience of the condition. And this lack of consideration for the information communicated by the parents at times appeared to negatively impact upon the care and treatment that the child received, for example, when stitching a wound or removing dressings. And parents valued healthcare professionals who were open and willing to learn about the condition, appreciating those who took the time to attend to their concerns and offer support. The invisible nature of classical EDS added an extra layer of complexity. Many individuals did not fully understand the severity of the condition until they witnessed the child sustain an injury. There have been instances where others have forgotten about the child's condition, and this led them to be less cautious around the child and increase the likelihood that they sustained an injury. Parents describe the benefits of educational resources to increase awareness of the child's condition. However, due to the heterogeneous nature of classical EDS, they were still required to repeatedly explain how the condition impacts the child individually and the symptoms that they experience. And then the final theme was coping and support. So in terms of healthcare, there are many different healthcare professionals involved in the care of a child with classical EDS, and this largely depended on the symptoms that the child was experiencing. Some parents reported that there was a lack of care coordination and continuity, which led to concerns about accessing the appropriate healthcare services in the future as the child's condition develops. All parents reported that management of the condition was primarily focused on the physical symptoms, with the psychological and social impacts largely neglected, and they expressed a need for more mental health support, both for the child and for the whole family. Some parents accessed online EDS groups for support, but they mentioned that these were often dominated by individuals with the more common hypermobile type of EDS, and they often felt that they couldn't relate to their experiences. All parents highlighted the importance of family support. Parents talked openly about the condition with their child and provided the appropriate age-relevant information. And this proved beneficial as the child was then able to explain their condition to others, enhancing their self-efficacy. And then finally, all parents encouraged their child to adopt a positive attitude and embrace living with classical EDS. Humour was a frequently used strategy to help families cope with the condition. When their child became upset or frustrated about having classical EDS, parents offered reassurance and supported the child to positively reframe their situation, for example, by focusing on what they can do rather than what they cannot do because of their classical EDS. And this appeared to aid their psychological well-being. And it's just to say that the resilience of all the children and their families were evident across all interviews. So just to conclude, in terms of implications for clinical practice, from this study, it's clear that there are several areas where the current support provided for those with classical EDS could be improved. Implications that emerged from this study include increasing awareness of classical EDS, particularly within the healthcare sector, improving the provision of family-centred care with healthcare professionals, the individual and the family all working together collaboratively to provide high-quality care, greater acknowledgement of the psychosocial issues faced by children with classical EDS and their families, and developing tailored interventions and support groups to help children and their families manage the psychosocial issues reported. So many thanks for taking the time to listen to this presentation.